Hello, my name is Emma. I'm a practicing Catholic and I'm also going to a different house of worship every week. So this week is actually really cool. So a girl reached out to me on TikTok and invited me to church with her. So today we are going to an Orthodox church. So I'm really looking forward to it because I've heard that it's pretty similar to Catholicism, at least in some ways. So I will let you know how it goes. We are back from the liturgy. I have to say, one, thought that was absolutely beautiful. And two, you can definitely tell that this church has so much history and so much tradition that was really evident just in this regular weekend service that I went to. So I'll go over some initial reactions, walk you through the service kind of from my POV, and then my takeaways. So the first thing that I noticed was that people were dressed very formally. It was definitely fancier than the other churches that I've attended so far. Also, just as a side note, today the church didn't have any power, but honestly, I thought that was beautiful. I've always loved candlelight masses, so this was just kind of a cherry on top. So, Catholic churches, you have maybe 4 or 5 points throughout the Mass where people stop, you all turn to the same page number in a hymn book, and you sing it together. Here, first of all, a lot of it was straight through, there weren't really any stops. And then there were also a lot of chants and things that are going on that seemed pretty regular, like the whole congregation knew them. It wasn't like a particular song that they picked out for that week. Another thing that stood out to me was that the sign of the cross was very prevalent. People did it a lot, but it's opposite. So Catholics will go like this, but all the people at this Orthodox church went like this and ended on their left shoulder. Some commonalities were a lot of the prayers were very similar. Our Father, I believe, was exactly the same. Other, what we call Mass parts, were similar. The start of the Gloria, the Holy, 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 the consecration, and the Nicene Creed. Clearly, there were like some word changes and things, especially in the Nicene Creed, which I thought were very interesting. But as a whole, like I followed it and like knew with the next sections that were going to be coming up just from my upbringing as a Catholic. Lord have mercy was very prevalent. And we say this in Catholic Mass, but in this liturgy, it was much more prevalent in different parts, and it was a call and response repeated multiple times. Also, there was a point in the service where they honored Mary, but this is the first non Catholic church where I've seen that, and they refer to her as the Virgin Mary. So that was cool. They had one reading, and then similar to Catholic churches, they had an Alleluia where everyone stood up, and then we stood up for the gospel. They had a homily, which was, I would say, around the length of a Catholic homily. It was 5 or 6 minutes, and today was talking about how humans are made in the image and likeness of God. It was talking about comparing our relationship with our parents and how parents hand down traits. Well, I thought this was interesting because, I mean, being adopted, I couldn't really relate, but like I got where they were coming from. We inherit characteristics from our parents, and so drawing this parallel between us inheriting them from God and then our special stature as humans at the top of creation, but also having that responsibility as well to represent God. So all great things, all things that I had heard before and totally agree with. Something that was really interesting was communion. So their communion, my understanding, it's leavened bread, first of all. There's a central part and then there's outside parts. The central part is turned into the body of Christ. This is then put into a chalice with the blood of Christ, which is wine. From there, everyone receives in the mouth. It's kind of like a very long, slender spoon. The priest will dip it in and pull out a little bit of the material in there and put it in everyone's mouth. And then afterwards, people go around to the side and kind of have like their okay, I feel weird calling it the second course, but that's kind of what it looked like to me, where it's the outer ring of this bread that's been blessed but not turned into the body of Christ, and then also this wine, which again has been blessed but not turned into the blood of Christ. And to my understanding, it is kind of like the end of communion, where you fast at the beginning of it and you kind of have this blessed material at the end. So after the service, there was a coffee hour, and I thought that was really nice because people were honestly so welcoming. I was able to ask a lot of questions about like church structure, about how disagreements are handled, how like some of the core tenets of the faith and just how they play out. And people were super open to talking about it. Something else that I noticed was this pride of community. So a lot of families knew each other, had connections, people knew each other's faces. And I think I'd seen this in other churches before, but I certainly think that it was definitely something to be proud of. And I think this is what a lot of churches should strive to be. Talking to people was also very clear how proud they were at the history of the church and how these traditions and their beliefs do reach back thousands of years. And I think that's something that I love about being Catholic. So it's really interesting to see these parallels in the Eastern Church. So yeah, I thought it was so fun to be able to shadow someone, be able to be invited somewhere and ask questions and really have these conversations in real time, which I think is so cool that we can do on social media, and we can make these relationships as a result of it. Yeah, so if you're in the Cincinnati area and you're open to having me come visit your church, let me know. I will totally come. So thank you to Kelly. Thank you to everyone who is so welcoming. Yeah, I had a great time.